What do I wish all of my sighted counterparts could experience as a blind person? Oh, all the things I wish they could experience. All right, let's go discuss it. Hey, this is Matt. Welcome back to the channel Blind to Billionaire. So, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing what I wish my sighted counterparts could experience as a blind person. So, don't all of us just wish they could just take our shoes for, I don't know, a day, a week, a month, forever? Wouldn't that be better? Just forever. But no, I wouldn't want this to be anybody else's life, really. I wouldn't want anybody else to experience this. I mean, it just, yeah, I feel like I've adapted enough that I wouldn't want to put this on someone else. So, anyway, getting back on track. So, what do I wish my sighted counterparts could experience as a blind person? So, there are a lot of different things that I wish they could experience, but I've actually just narrowed it down to three, just to make for the time of for time's sake in this video. I thought I'll just do three, and we can always make an updated another video on this at some point in the future. But okay, so number one, what do I wish they would experience? So number one, one thing that I wish they could experience is missing the nonverbal cues in a social gathering or a social setting. So as all of us who are blind or visually impaired, we know the routine. We're in a social gathering, whether it's with one other person or it's a lot of people. A lot of communication has a lot of nonverbals, and it can be really tough when you're in somewhat of a social gathering and people are talking and we're only hearing the verbals, right? We're only catching on to the verbals. So we're following the conversation based on what we hear. And then all of a sudden the whole group erupts in laughter and everybody's laughing and oh, this is great, this is funny. And when there we are, just sitting, right? Just sitting quietly thinking, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I have no idea what just happened. But anyway, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then the person you're with or something, they lean over and they're like, oh, a fly just landed on Heather's nose. Oh, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the punchline is over. It's too late by that. At that point, it's like, okay, I guess it's not really funny anymore because we missed it. So I really wish that people who are sighted could experience what it's like to be in a social gathering, whether, like I said, whether it's a group or just one other person, and not seeing the nonverbals. Well, this would be super easy for them to experience. Basically, they could just close their eyes and engage in some social gatherings or some social settings. That'd be pretty awkward, standing around with your eyes closed, but they could experience it just simply by closing their eyes in these situations. But for all of us who are blind or visually impaired, I'm sure all of us have been in these types of situations, like I just described, that little story I just made up. But it can be really frustrating. I know for me, it's like I said a little while ago, like the punchline or the event that happened in the social gathering where everybody erupted into laughter is already done and over with. And it's like by the time we hear about it, 10, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds later, it's like, oh, okay. Well, the moment is already gone, so it's not really that funny anymore. So there's a lot that goes into communication that is nonverbal. So, yeah, that's just something I wish that they could experience to realize, like, oh, yeah, there's actually a lot that goes into a conversation that is nonverbal. Not only what we're observing around during the conversation, but not only that, but like eye contact, facial expressions, things like that that we don't catch on to when we're communicating with somebody, engaging with somebody. So that's one thing. So yeah, so that's number one that I wish my sighted counterparts could experience. Number two, how disorienting it can be to be a blind or visually impaired person. So this is kind of a difficult one. So if I am going to a new place, someplace I have never been before, it is incredibly disorienting for me. I can get turned around so easily because it's just like I have no reference of borders or size or anything of wherever it is that I am. So it can be really disorienting to be whether it's like a house, a mall, anything, literally anything. If I've never been there before, it can be very disorienting. So that's something that it's like, I don't know how a person would really experience it other than the fact that they walk into a new place that they've never been before and they just close their eyes. And I guess that's one way to experience it. I guess one way that a sighted person could experience a disorienting situation too is in the dark. That actually makes me think of a kind of a funny story. A couple of weeks ago, Corey and I were at home. We were doing something. I don't know what we were doing, but I prefer to be in the dark. And the reason for that is artificial light really hurts my eyes. So I prefer to just, when I'm at home, I rarely turn lights on. I just navigate around the house completely in the dark. And the reason that I do that just because I just don't see any need to turn lights on. They don't help me. If anything, they hurt me more than anything because they create glare and my eyes just hurt because of it. So I've learned to adapt and become very efficient in the dark. I can do literally anything in the dark just as easily I can in the light because, like I just said, lights really don't help me. But anyway, Corey and I were doing something. I was in a room doing whatever I was doing, I don't know. And Corey walked into the room and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I need to do this. Can I turn the light on?" And I was like, "No." I don't know what it was she was going to do. It was something really simple. And I was like, "No, just learn how to do it in the dark." And she was like totally confused. She's like, "Well, I don't know how I'm going to do this." I'm just like, "Well, just feel. Like you can learn how to feel and do it through like what you're touching. Like the feedback in your fingers is what's going to allow you to do whatever it is you're going to do." So it was really difficult for her to complete the task, whatever it was she was trying to do, even though it was super easy. Like I think it was something as simple as like putting toothpaste on her toothbrush. I mean, that's super easy. All of us do it every day, a couple times a day probably, and we do it, essentially in the dark. So I was like, just figure it out. You know what I mean? It's like, but anyway, I've actually had this conversation with other people on this channel, which is kind of funny. Like, if there was ever a day that Earth never had light again or something like that, like blind people would thrive. It'd be awesome. And the sighted people would be like, "Oh, the world is ending." And blind people would be like, "Yeah, we're taking over the world." But yeah, so anyway, yeah, how disorienting it can be in a new place. However, if I'm going to a place that I've been before, like a mall, a restaurant, a house, something like that, I do a lot better. And the reason for that is as I navigate my way around whatever the establishment is that I'm in, I paint the picture of it in my head, in my mind. So I can kind of like build the image of what a house looks like inside based on when I'm walking around it. I know like I'm building the blueprint of the house in my mind. So if I ever return, I know the layout of the house. It's pretty easy. But sometimes it takes me a couple times to get it. Depending on how big the space is and how much I navigate of that space, it kind of dictates how long it's going to take me to learn that area. But overall, after just a couple times, it's like, okay, I got it down and I can navigate pretty well then, even though I pretty much can't see what I'm doing or where I am or things like that. I get to know the lay of the land. But there is an exception to that. If I am in a room and let's say I'm looking down, maybe let's say I'm in a room in a random house and I'm vacuuming. Actually, this happens in just any normal house, like my house or my parents' house, a house that I've been in many times. If I'm looking down vacuuming and then I look up, sometimes I'm so disoriented, like I can't tell, am I facing, like which wall am I facing? I don't know. So I always need to have some kind of like reference points, and sometimes I can get very turned around. So anyway, I got a little bit carried away with this one, but yeah, anyway, just being disoriented and experiencing what it's like to feel disoriented. It's actually a really interesting experience. So that's number 2. Number 3 is relying on other people. So I think it would be pretty interesting for our sighted counterparts to realize how much we rely on other people. Now I know that I probably rely on other people more than a lot of you do because I simply have not gone through the formal orientation and mobility training along with other just like life skills that you learn in what do they even call that? Like adaptations to blindness or adapting to blindness training, whatever they call it, whatever the formal name is for it. But whatever you learn in these classes, I'm sure a lot of you know a lot more about it than me, but just relying on other people. Like I rely on people all the time. When I'm at home or I'm somewhere like my parents' house or something like that, I don't rely on people all that much. But when I'm out away from the house, I rely on people a lot to help me navigate, obviously to do the driving. Anytime that we're at a new place, someone always needs to be there to help me guide around, like where are we going? Okay, are there steps? Are there curbs? Are there obstacles? Are there a lot of people that we need to navigate through? Things like that. So it can be somewhat frustrating because by nature, us as humans, we want to be independent and we just want that independence. So relying on somebody else all the time can be really frustrating because it's like it's 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 like it's diminishing our independence that we have and that we're striving for. So yeah, those are three of my thoughts as far as what I wish my sighted counterparts could experience as a blind person. So those are just some of my thoughts. But anyway, I would love to hear from you. What are some of the things that you wish your sighted counterparts could experience as well? So stick those down in the comments below. I love to hear everything you guys always have to say. It's really fun interacting and getting to know all of you and just seeing the conversations down in the comments section. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new here, I'd love it if you subscribed. Otherwise, leave any comments or questions down below. And thanks again for watching. I will see you on Friday. All right, see you later. Thanks again.